for self-care for parents, I think for a while I was kind of resistant to it because I was like, all the time, all the money, all the effort needs to go for Aiden's care. And my husband's like, you need to get help so you can be well.
Exactly.
I would start going, I go for acupuncture weekly and I get the
Then,
treatments
yes,
I
and
need
also,
Yeah.
because I have to reset every day. Every day I
Yeah.
have to be like, okay,
then
I'm
I
resetting now.
Yep. And Aiden, one of the things your mom's saying is that old adage, put your oxygen mask on first. You know, moms and dads can't help their kids unless they're helping themselves.
It took
yes,
me a
exactly.
long while to accept that and it was hard to hear because even when friends would
Yeah.
say that, I'd be like, but you don't know what's going on here. Like
Right.
you're not understanding. And I think you come to a certain point where you realize the engine's totally empty.
Welcome to Demystifying PANS and PANDAS, the podcast where we uncover the mysteries, breakthroughs, and hope behind these life-altering conditions. I'm Dr. Nancy O'Hara, a board-certified pediatrician, educator, and advocate with over 3 decades of experience helping children and families navigate the challenges of neurodevelopmental and neuropsychiatric conditions, especially PANS and PANDAS. These disorders can feel overwhelming, but here we'll break down the science, explore transformative treatments, and share stories of resilience and recovery. If you've ever wondered what's possible for your child or how to find answers, this is the place to start. Let's dive in. Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Nancy O'Hara, and I am so excited to welcome to our podcast, Demystifying PANS PANDAS, Aiden Newman Brown. Aiden is 10 years old, and he suffered with PANS for years without getting the correct diagnosis. But right now, he's in a research study that's conducted by LSU and Stanford through Dr. Melamed's practice that started a few months ago, and he's receiving IVIG infusions, and he was the first person participating in the study, and they're planning on including 10 kids with the hopes of receiving more funding for additional participants. So that's exciting. What's also exciting is that Aiden loves playing and watching baseball. He's not a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, probably, or he wouldn't love it as much. Who's your team, Aiden?
Yankees.
Well, you have much better record. I gotcha. And he collects Pokemon cards and going to arcades. And what's also really cool is Aiden is the founder of Bottle Caps Are Cool. And he sells NFC-enabled, nostalgic, or custom logo bottle cap charms that are called tap caps that can be programmed to any digital content you choose, like websites, social media, video, photos, apps, your phone. I think that's so cool. So, Aiden, before we get started talking about all the PANS PANDAS stuff, can you tell me a little bit about that Bottle Caps Are Cool?
Yes. So when I make my ball caps, a portion of my money goes to the homeless, and I make food and give them to them when I drive around Denver. And yeah.
Wow. And how did you come up with this idea? How did it?
Well, in 2023, when I went to France, they had many areas had ball caps, and at first I just wanted to collect them for the fun of it. And then when I brought them home, I had the idea of making a business out of them. And at first I had no idea what to do, but then I looked it up and I found out that the NFC would be the best thing to do with it.
Wow. And what does NFC stand for?
Near field communication.
Wow, that is so cool. And by the way, I want to tell all our listeners and viewers that you guys reached out to me, that you were interested in talking about this. And I think that is so cool. You know, I talk to so many kids who are not willing to talk about their PANS or PANDAS because they're worried about what people would think. So first of all, I just want to say thank you. And I want to say what respect and admiration I have for you. Just talking on this podcast. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So can you
sorry.
Go ahead. You go, Mom.
For National PANS Awareness Day, I had asked Aiden what he would like to do to commemorate the day. And that's how he came up with this idea.
It's such a great idea. And I am so honored that you picked me to talk to on this. So I really, really appreciate it. But let me ask you, my first question is, can you remember back when things started to feel different for you? And what did it feel like in your body or your mind then?
Well, I would say that's kind of at the beginning of 2023, When I started going to France, I started feeling like I couldn't exactly control myself in certain things. It wasn't that bad, but like I felt it and it was different for me. So I called them, like I talked to my parents saying like they're like problems, and we talked about them. And then at first we thought, then when we got home, we thought it was OCD, and then we found, and then now many years later, like now I found out it was PANS, and
Yeah,
then
but
that
back then people didn't, I mean, even just a few years ago, people didn't know what to think, right?
yeah.
And Mom, was it very abrupt? Did it just come out of the blue from your
Well,
perspective?
yes, we had noticed little signs that did look a little bit characteristic of OCD, and we had OCD in the family, so it didn't seem too far-fetched. But it wasn't interfering with daily life or school.
Yeah, and then like later on, that's when it started interfering with other things, you know? At first it was just small things, and then once I came back, like it got a little bit worse, you know? Like OCD is not like just like being destructive. That's not like OCD is in that, unless it was a repetition of something that you did before, but it just came out of nowhere. So then we still thought it was that because it didn't exactly have another thing that it could have possibly been that we thought it was, but then we finally figured it out.
It was a very interesting conversation I had with Aiden. We were trying to find our apartment in Paris, and we were a little disoriented. And during this long walk, he started talking to me that he felt a change in him. He felt that he had several problems. And he said,
Okay.
you want to
Yeah. Well,
explain it?
like for example, like they'd have like I would say like problems, and then like each night, like before I went to bed, I'd expand on it, like saying like, oh, like I have like these folders like A to Z, and then like each letter would mean like a different like thing, you know. For example, like
Mm.
A for like my name, things about like me, then like something about like D about like a repetition with a dog or something like that, with different things that went to it, and then like each night I like add something to it, and then like I still do that now, but less commonly because there's less bad symptoms since I'm getting help now. But
Right.
yeah.
Well, he
Was it scary for you back then, Aiden?
Um, Not exactly scary. I just didn't understand what it was, so it was kind of
Got it.
confusing mostly.
Got
But
it.
then, like once we
Okay.
came back and I started going to school, like I kind of made like a thing of like a car, for example. Like in the in the trunk was me, then in like the back seat it was like focus, then it was like repetition in the passenger seat and anger in the front seat. Like I did like I drew a drawing of that, kind of like saying that um like what was the worst and what was the easiest, like you know like I was in the back of the car, so I couldn't control anything at that point. Then slowly I got to control the focus and to the repetition, but then yeah.
Wow, that's a really good analogy, buddy. Did you come up with that? Were you thinking about that yourself? Wow. So let me just re-articulate that. So at the time before you were getting help, you were a car, but you yourself were in the back. You couldn't control
Yeah,
your thoughts or what was going on in the
like I
driver's
was
seat.
like I was in the car. I was not
Yeah.
the car, but
you were
Right.
in
You were
the
in
trunk.
the car. Yeah, but in the trunk. You
but
can't
then
drive the car from the trunk.
No.
exactly. But then like slowly I got to the back seat, and then
Yeah.
like I stayed in the back seat for a very long time. Then I'm like still like trying to get into the passenger seat, but way easier now.
Okay. So right now you're in the passenger seat. You're not quite driving yet.
I guess, yeah.
Okay. All right.
But also now since I'm getting treatment, like anger is not really there anymore. It's more like the repetition. Kind of like once I got my help, like the anger got like removed, kind of. It wasn't even there anymore. And then that's why the repetition is now in the driver's seat. So I'm technically, like, if you think about it, I'm in the passenger seat.
Got it. Got it. So
Yeah,
you
this
still
came
have.
sorry.
But
Go ahead,
technically,
buddy.
if I was in full control, then I wouldn't. If I was in the driver's seat, that'd mean I'm in full control. That means I wouldn't need help right now. So I'm
Right.
not.
Right. Got it. That makes sense. That makes sense. That's a really great analogy, buddy. I'm big into analogies.
He
So
came up with that
I like that one.
during this walk in Paris and explaining this to me and explaining how he was feeling anger and he was afraid it would turn into rage. And he said,
Yeah.
if I don't, he just turned 10. He was 8 when he said this. And he said, Mommy, if we don't get help now, I don't want to be like this when I'm an adult. And if I don't get help now, I felt like I was talking to this old soul.
Yeah.
It was wild. As a mother, it was wild,
Right.
because he's a little boy, but it was just a wild conversation.
Right.
And
And you
I
must
think
not have known what to do, what to think, what
I
was going
didn't.
on.
I didn't because beforehand, when we noticed little symptoms of OCD, we had called the pediatrician, who's phenomenal, and he recommended one of the best acupuncturists I've ever been to. Her name is Molly Dyer, and she helped Aiden with congestion and all sorts of other things. And we thought it could help. The pediatrician thought it could help with some of what could be OCD. It wasn't diagnosed yet. Oh, did you want to say something? Go ahead.
And thought that I wasn't diagnosed with OCD. She wasn't 100% sure that it was PANS, but she thought it was PANS.
She was the first person
Oh.
to suspect it. She said she couldn't diagnose it, but she suspected it. And when we asked the psychiatrist, it was kind of brushed under the rug.
Yeah.
And they had put him on two different SSRIs that we tried that really made things way worse. We weren't sleeping. We had all sorts of side effects that were not typical of the prescription. And I felt convinced this didn't seem like classic OCD to me. It didn't seem anxiety driven.
Right.
There seemed like a different flavor.
Right.
And as we dug deeper and deeper, I started to realize I really think Molly might be onto something. And we went to a neuroimmunologist at Children's Hospital, and she's like, no, this is PANS. And she felt when we went to France, Aiden had a little irritation on his tush, and she thinks it was strep at that time.
Yeah.
And we had called a doctor, but we couldn't get an appointment before we left. And, they thought it just could be, nothing major, don't worry about it. But things got worse and worse. And what was most surprising is Aiden is one of the most empathic, sweet people I know. He's not a mean or a violent person. And when we saw this anger, it really took us aback. The doctors asked, did something happen?
Like at some
Yeah.
point, then at some point it got worse that they would have violence at home, but not at school. So it was interfering with some of my life, but not all of it,
Yeah.
Throwing big objects, knocking down doors, things that are very violent. But then
Totally
but then one day
uncharacteristic.
at school, out of nowhere, I had one at school, and then
Well, this is what happened. We had everything would be fine at school. And I'd ask the teachers, they must have thought I was nuts because I said, are you sure everything's okay? They must have thought I was paranoid because at home it would all fall apart. And at school they'd say, oh, everything's great. He even went on a 2-night overnight trip. It was great. Everything's fine. And then started fourth grade. And things started to get difficult. Sure.
So what they was, for example, what they were doing was they were saying at the end of school he was throwing cushions at the wall, not towards anything, just getting my anger out towards an object or something. Or when someone said, oh, it's this class, I say I have to go to the bathroom and I never come back till the class is done, things I wouldn't normally do, or
Right.
like that.
Were you trying to hold it together, Aiden? Was that what was going on inside of you at school? You didn't want to show that at school, and then at home you felt freer to release this anger that you were feeling?
I mean, I could stop at one place, and I
Yeah.
mean, at school is better than at home, to stop it. So, but at some point, then since I wasn't getting the right medication, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And at some point, it's not like I was getting better. So since it was getting
Right.
worse, that's how that happened. And then
Right.
I also sent him to school unknowingly with strep. And I didn't know because this is before we realized PANS was in the picture and it was diagnosed as OCD.
Did you know I had strep then?
I didn't.
did
Aiden
you
doesn't
know I
always.
strep?
No, I would never have sent you to school. Aiden, when he gets sick, he doesn't present like a typical sick child. He's also not a complainer. So there was a day or two where he's saying, I didn't want to go to school, but we had a few days of school refusal. And I was told by the therapist, get to school. You can't get into that place where this starts to snowball. So I was like, all right, bud, we're going to school. And
then,
he came home early 2 days. And then I spoke to the principal. I was like, keep him there. He's fine. And then I got a call saying, you really need to come to school. And I said, what's going on?
For example, so one day, I just so it was almost it was the time of, like, it was, like, after recess or something, we came in, and, like, instead, like, I tried to run out of the classroom, so, like, they called a teacher, but I was already out of the classroom, you know? So then
Yeah.
I ran out of the school all the way to another building, and then, like, and then I went to one building, and then and then I went
It
to
was like it was like almost like a scared squirrel because I got to
Yeah.
school.
and then, like, every time, like, someone would surround me, I'd find a way to get out, and, like, I wasn't trying to attack anything, I was just trying to get away, you know?
Right.
No, he wasn't harming anyone or anything like that. It really felt like people trying to trap like a little squirrel and that
Yeah.
squirrel wanting to not be trapped. And, I was taken aback because I get there and I'm surrounded by 12 adults, all trying to get a child, some of these adults crying, panicking. It was overwhelming. And I got there and I was by myself and I was like, okay, we just need to like extricate ourselves from this situation. I called my husband, come, I
So, like,
need
at some
you.
point, then I got into, like, the middle school building, and I was, like, stuck in these doors, so, like, someone was blocking both doors.
So I was able
So
to get him, but then we went
yeah.
right to the pediatrician. And because I was really worried, I didn't understand what
Yeah.
happened. And they did a strep test
And it
and
was positive.
yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I realized I had sent him to school for 3 days with raging strep, having
Right.
no idea.
Right. And that is such a typical history that I hear from so many families that, the kids weren't complainers. They didn't complain about things. It was a behavioral manifestation, not a sore throat, not a fever. They were exposed to strep and had behavioral changes. Or you get to the pediatrician, the throat looks pristine, but they've had these behavioral changes and it ends up being strep. And that's so classic of so many kids. So, from your perspective, Aiden, what's something people get wrong about what it's like to have PANS or PANDAS? What's something people don't understand? What's something they get wrong?
I don't know, like, how if, like, you can, like, technically, like, when you're there, like, you can't control yourself, they just think, like, you're not trying, but, like, even if you're
Right,
trying all your thing, it's like, like, your body control your brain doesn't your brain controls your body, but technically, just because your body's bigger doesn't mean your small brain can control, like, it doesn't matter if you're big or small, you can still control a bigger thing, or a small thing can control a big thing, you know? So it's like,
right,
if that gets bigger than your brain, I mean, and then hard, you know? Then it's like if it's like if it's like thinking the same way as your if it's thinking differently as your brain but as the same rate, it'd be like two things the same size fighting against each other and it never ends, you know? It just keeps like one person gets punched, one person gets punched, it just keeps happening and happening, and I could get better than worse and better than worse, and then it just keeps alternating.
Well, his
right.
teacher told me that Aiden had confided in her that he just wanted to be out of his body, that
Yeah.
he didn't feel control of his body, that he wished he could just be out of it.
Yeah, and that's so typical.
Just,
And back to your car analogy, it's not you. You're back in the trunk. You're not driving this car. And some of my patients call what's going on for them some other name because it's so not them. It's so not who they know themselves as. So that's something a lot of people get wrong. And also that the behavior, the trying to get away from everybody, like that trapped squirrel, that's not you. That's this disease driving your brain, right?
yes, exactly. Like, for example, like, what was thinking, like, flight, attack, was it like,
Oh, fight, flight, or
yeah,
freeze?
fight or flight. Like, I normally fight or flight. You know, I don't normally freeze. You know, like during when I have stress or something and I can't control myself, I don't just freeze. You know, and that's not like me.
He would run away. Like, luckily we
Right.
live in a one-story house, but he would like leave through the window, just run down the block. It was
Ah,
terrifying because this was so atypical. This is a
yeah.
child who at school would confess to me if he took a sip from the water fountain without permission. I'm like, I think it's okay. Don't worry about it, you know?
Yep. Yep.
And he would
Absolutely.
confess this to me. And then all of a sudden to have trouble at school was really, it really took us aback because it was not
Yeah.
something we had ever had an experience with.
Yeah. Well, for you, Aiden, how does having pandas make school or hanging out with friends feel different for you?
Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, like do you feel different at school or back then when this was going on? Did having this hanging out with friends feel bad or feel worse or feel different in any way?
I guess different, because like before, like they were like they were sometimes mean to me, but that like not like a lot, but like
Yeah.
because like sometimes like my parents would do something annoying they didn't do purposely. Like do something that like someone doesn't like normally. Like I do something that they don't like, and they think it's just my fault. They
Yeah.
would react. I mean, they already would react like extreme, even if I did it purposely. But but I wasn't doing anything purposely in the first place. It was just my parents. So when I say
Right.
annoy them, it's not like I purposely annoyed them.
Yeah. Do you try to explain it at all to your friends or other people in your life, what's going on in your brain or body?
Yes, like, for example, I did a presentation, like, before I thought I had PANDAS, I did a presentation about OCD, like, and we watched, like, a video on something about it, and then, like, for that one day, everyone was nice to me, and then after that, they were like, "Oh, he didn't have it that day anymore," just for that one day, 'cause
Yeah.
teachers were watching that one day specifically, but then after that, it was like a normal day again. It's kinda like a special case, no, they're nice to me, and then another case, and they're not. But then also, it also kind of depends because yeah.
It's
Yeah.
tough sometimes because it looks behavioral and people have less sympathy for
Yeah.
that than you would if you walked into school with a broken leg.
Exactly.
And that can
When
be
it
really
involves the brain, it's very hard for people to understand that it's inflammation in your brain. Just like,
Mhm.
arthritis would be inflammation in your knee. They can see that though. They just see, bad behavior and think you're a mean kid. And we know that's not true,
and that
right?
yes, I think that was
But
really
then, like, for example, like, my teachers from the other grade knew I wasn't that person and they saw something was wrong. But since that started all 4th grade, my teachers in 4th grade thought that was actually who I was, because they never saw me
Oh,
the other way. Because
yeah.
my other teachers, I was always nice the entire time. But then that in the 4th grade, since I was like, I was inflamed like the entire year of 4th grade, they didn't know who I was. They thought I was that mean kid.
Right, right. And how did you help them to understand? Were you able to talk to them about it, or did your mom help talk to them?
I think we did that at a student conference one.
we did, but it was difficult because he had not been diagnosed with PANS yet. So we
Yeah.
were talking about it through a lens of OCD. We were talking it we had him medicated on things that made him worse. The therapy we were bringing him to was not
Yeah.
helping. And
And
it
then like
really came down to just needing this to be treated
but
medically.
then
And
also like for example, not about this specific topic, but also when like I left school, like I had like a play date with another friend, they told me that like many people were making like a story saying, "Oh, he ran and got hit by a car on the road," or like, "Oh, he like dropped a bomb." I mean, like things that was
yeah, saying like
totally
really like outrageous things,
yeah.
even though he just ran out of the classroom.
Yeah, I
Wow.
mean, I ran out of class and into a building, but because like no one could exactly see out the window. All they saw is me running to one building that was near the road, but that didn't mean I ran into the road.
Yeah.
Husband and I were talking like it's not that our suffering is unique or
Right.
special, but we were thinking, well, what makes this different? It's the isolation.
Yes.
It's so isolating.
Yeah.
And then we took a little time off. Luckily, I'm a curriculum developer for the last 20 something years. So we decided to do 1 year of homeschool and then re-enroll in school. But what we realized is it's almost like we vanished. People didn't
Mm.
reach out.
Yeah.
And I think that was the hardest part because Aiden's like, does anyone remember me? And it felt like we were just erased.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, the absolute toughest part. And the
And for example,
one beautiful thing was we go to a temple that is extraordinarily warm and loving. And they saw Aiden on his worst days and they said, you know what? We're going to find a way, even if it looks a little different, to make it work. And then as he got better, he
like kind of
participates
like
in
this
Hebrew school.
kind of
And
like the same thing when it happened at school. My mom thought it was just because of wanting a strep, and then I didn't have strep then a lot. Then I still went to Hebrew school the next, like a few days
well, we didn't
later.
know it was PANS, that we didn't
We didn't know
realize
it was
exactly
family,
what was going on.
and so I was taking medication for strep and all that. But then the exact same like the thing at Hebrew school technically happened worse, because like at school I only like
But you ran out,
slighted,
yeah,
but
because
then like I ran out of the building And
But then mom and dad came and got you. So that was good. But it was scary because we thought that was a one-time incident. We thought that was
Yeah.
just like, oh, maybe something happened at school. But then we realized this was more serious than we had fully understood. Luckily, Children's had put us on a 30-day antibiotic regime and steroids, and that helped briefly. But I think what helped even more was the functional medicine doctor who helped, actually really analyzing what's going on in the blood, what he needs, where he's deficient. And then we started seeing things really changing. Dr. Melamed thought that the IVIG could be really helpful. Aiden's case is also somewhat unique because when he was 3 years old, he had something called autoimmune hemolytic anemia.
Yeah.
So what happened is I remember like it was yesterday, leaving Barnes and Noble and Aiden just saying, "Can you carry me, mommy?" And I was like, "Oh, you're a big boy. You should, we're going to walk back to the car." And then he just kind of like wilted in the parking lot. So I scooped him up and, no fever, no vomiting, no diarrhea, nothing really alarming, but he was in pre-K at the time and like everyone has sniffles and stuff. And I said, okay, he's probably getting something. And I remember that evening I was working with a client and my husband said, he looks really pale and his urine had a little bit of a Coca-Cola color to it. And we didn't think it was blood. Of course, what does any 40-something-year-old woman do? They call their mother, who's not a medical doctor. My dad's like, your mother's not a psychiatrist or a pediatrician. So she said, call the emergency line. And I felt silly at first because what am I saying? My child doesn't have a fever. They said, go to the emergency room. We did. They said, this is quite serious. You need to get to Children's. And before we knew it, we were in the hematology and oncology unit. And they didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
But he did have 2 blood transfusions as the red blood cells were bursting open pretty quickly. But so that was like the first time where there was this major issue with the autoimmune system.
Right.
And I think in the back of my mind, I always felt like, my mom's like, don't borrow trouble. But I felt that there was some like unfinished business there.
Yeah.
And years later, when we did go to Mali for acupuncture, she said, I feel like there's this, this is an Eastern medicine talk, like this pathogen that just needs to get out.
Mm.
And I didn't fully wrap my mind around that, but I kind of understood what she was getting at. And I think that's when that huge flare happened.
Right.
There's that
And,
huge flare.
although most of our children do not have to go through autoimmune hemolytic anemia, having autoimmune disease in the child or in the family is actually very common. At least 65% of the kids have that, in their family or in themselves. And, this it isn't about strep or mycoplasma or viruses. It's about the way the immune system reacts to those and the inflammation that the immune system causes in the brain that brings about these behaviors and abnormal movements and all of those things.
It's interesting that you brought that up because that is something we noticed also. We would notice things that now I realize was a tic. It was hard for us to know, is that like a compulsion?
Yeah.
And then I spoke with my friend whose son was diagnosed with Tourette's, and he said, that sounds like a tic to me.
Yeah.
But there would be like, it started when he had some congestion and he would be, but then I noticed it stayed for quite a while after.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like for a long while, or certain snorting certain things. And I could see that it could happen when his body might be under stress or starting to.
Yeah.
But exactly, like, not exactly about what you're saying again, but like, for example, like when I'm in a flare, like, I can't exactly, I like use my strengths, not like I don't just think about things, I do it. Like this, if second I think about a thing, I do it like immediately,
Yeah, there's no space between his thought and then the action in a flare.
And then also, like, let's say I can't do something, I'll put like all my strengths into something. Like, let's say, like, I want to like break down a door, and I was like, I can't do this. And then I found a way, like, oh, I have an idea. Like, let's just put the chair into the door, and then destroy it. But like normally you'd think about that thing, well, that break the chair and the door, like I wasn't even thinking, I shouldn't break the door in the first place, but then like at some point, like you can't control yourself at all.
Yeah, that was shocking to us because that was
like
not
still
something
now,
we ever
like still now, I
experienced.
can't like control myself. I can't control myself 100%,
But you don't have those major
Yes, I know.
outbursts anymore.
But then, like during an outburst, it's like if someone says like, like I'll give like whatever you say, like, oh, I'll give you video game time, I'll give you money or whatever.
It's not something you can bribe away. That's
Exactly.
for sure. You can't hold a
Exactly.
carrot and hope that you'll snap them out of it or have a punishment lined up and snap out of it. And it does feel
I mean, like
like you're
now,
a bit on a roller
like for example, like
coaster.
now, a punishment would say, okay, you know, it's not worth it, you know, fine, but like,
Well, because now you're more emotionally regulated. But then it was like it was like the roller coaster started for the nervous system, and then we'd know we're in this for at least 90 minutes, maybe up to
Wow.
3 hours, but we're in it. So we just have to strap in,
Right.
try to stay calm
but then,
ourselves.
like, when it starts
Right.
happening, like you have to, like what you do, like you close it, you like no, like say like
Well, we try to get ourselves in a safe place
Like
to make
when-
sure there's nothing around that could
yeah,
be
like for example, like
unsafe.
let's say it starts happening, like you put like eyes away, lock the door.
Yeah, exactly. You
They're
wouldn't
like-
have
they're
anything
like things-
unsafe.
Yeah, like you would put like things in a room and lock it. Like for example, they put like the utensils in a room and locked it because they didn't want me throwing utensils. But that I didn't break down the door for no reason. I broke it down to get them. You know.
Yeah.
It's-
So
Yeah.
I still think of I don't just during an outburst I still have reasons to do things. You know. They're bad reasons normally, but let's say. I wouldn't just break down door for no reason, you know, like I would do
Right.
it. to
When
get
your
something.
nervous system feels like it's in danger. You feel like you're in danger when that's happening.
Right.
And it's
That's
very
that fight part of the fight flight.
Because
Yeah.
after one of his outbursts, I remember him sitting down. You were sitting in that little red room in the basement, and you're like, "What just happened?" It was almost
Right.
like, but he remembers it. Not like his memory has been totally wiped. He remembers what happened, but he's just like, "Well, why would I do that?"
Right. And I think, again, there's so many important things you're saying that I want to emphasize a little bit more. One, that it's a roller coaster, that this is episodic. You can look absolutely feel fine 1 minute, and the next minute you're breaking down doors or you're ticking out the yin yang. That's
Yeah.
the first thing. Yeah. And then the second thing is that as moms and dads, we really have to try to stay calm in that moment ourselves, because
Yeah, like-
sometimes us getting upset doesn't help. Us
And
trying
my
to
husband's
Hey,
masterful at that.
But like,
Yeah.
for
He's
example,
very
like,
calm.
also like it's not like but when it was like very severe like that, it would just happen out of nowhere. That's like, for example, I'd be like, why would I do that? Like it happened, then it stopped, and then 5 minutes later it happens again, you know. And then like at first it's like, oh, I'm in this thing, I still remember it, but then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm back to normal, you know.
That's
And-
the interesting
but then,
thing,
like,
because you
now-
don't see
now-
what
yes.
instigated
But
it.
then now that
Right.
still happens, but since the things are so less severe, it's kind of like not super visible, you know? Like it might be like, I don't know where I do a repetition thing, but then it stops, you know? It's not like a super extreme thing, you know? So it's not
Right.
super visible. It's not like a thing like, oh no, he's doing the outburst now. It's not like it's a very small thing that's like, oh, he does this a few little time.
That's a good
Right.
point, Aiden, because we've
Right.
had gone on vacation where we had to kind of just like by noon, we're going back to wherever we're staying, and we're just going to be in the room and calm because it's too much stimulation for that day. And we had just recently went away, and it was an incredible vacation. And there'd be like little bouts of maybe 2 to 5 minutes of dysregulation, but not out of control. Just like, okay, we're having 5 minutes of dysregulation.
Yeah, like saying like, oh, I want to order this meal, and then you're like, no, I don't want that. Then fine, you know. But it's like, for example, like last time, last time we went to this time we went to Costa Rica, and it was a very nice vacation, as he said. But then last time we went to Belize, for example, and in the port, like chase people and say like we're playing tag, and then all of a sudden I'm like, getting chased, and then they're like trying to.
And my
run.
husband would have to extricate him from the situation. So that would
That's like a
the
bad.
hard thing
that
is like
ruins the
the
vacation.
vigilance
The thing that
all the
Yeah.
time.
when that happens, it ruins the vacation for me and my it ruins the
And-
vacation for us and other people, you know.
Right. Right.
But then, like, if it's one thing that's like a tiny argument, like about like if I can order something or not, that's like barely. It's the only people it's gonna affect is us for like 1 minute, you know. It's not gonna.
Right.
It's not a big thing, you know.
Right.
But
But
also,
but it's interesting in your vacations. You're sort of, that's a microcosm of what a lot of our kids deal with, is that parents, and we all want it to get better immediately. That's not the way this disease works. It's up and down, and you're getting better. But like you said, there's still some things it's not as bad, but there's still things that you
Like-
get stuck with.
Well,
And
it always-
Travel can be very difficult, just the stress on the body from even getting from point A to point B. And we've learned as a family that we try to keep things very low key. We don't get too committed to plans. We say this is the hope. We're not going to overschedule ourselves. And Aiden actually really knows himself. He'll say, Mommy, when we went to France, we did 3 activities and that's too much. Let's do 1 or maybe 2. And then like when he has more agency in the planning and he feels more in control of what's happening, that works a lot better.
Yeah. So like what you're saying before, when it goes up and down, like you can't like completely heal PANS or OCD, any of them. Like it'll keep like going up and down. But then at some point, if it goes up, it'll be like literally like 1% worse. You'd barely be visible. It'd be like a normal day. It would still go up and down. But like even at the peak, it'd be like nothing. It'd be like, oh, you touched one thing that's not normal, but like once you're like fully cured, it's never like 100%. It'll still go up and down, but the ups and downs will not even
It's more
be visible at all.
manageable.
It'll
It's
be
more
like still not
manageable.
visible at all,
Yeah.
And then like also what you were saying in France and all that, like the first time, like 3 things is not a lot, but like for example, like once we went there for like 3 things in a week is a lot, but like 3 things in like a month is nothing, But like let's say you go there for like a week and you have like every single day book something. It's like you never ever think. Also, like it also depends where you go, Like let's say you're at a hotel that has a pool.
You know what it is? It affects your endurance, and I think that it takes a toll on the mind and the body. So like we know when we make a plan, the next day we're gonna just, maybe we'll go to the park, maybe we'll just go to the beach, maybe we'll just relax. It's not going to be a very scheduled time. And I think sometimes, if you do the school day, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But trying to do the school day and then an extra, and trying to stack that, you can only ride that so long before then there's like the collapse.
Yeah, it's like in another analogy, Aiden, it's like a battery. You're spending so much energy trying to control some of the things that are out of your control, or trying to do the activities, and your battery just runs dry. And when you have PANS or PANDAS, it run dry faster.
For
Go ahead,
example,
what were you going to say?
I use lots of my energy for like PANS, and the rest I use for like one big activity I have to do a day. Like let's say, today we're going on a big hike. I might save some of my energy for walking and not being tired. Or let's say today we're doing a hard test. I'll put my energy towards that. But like half my energy is going towards PANS, and the other half is going to one big thing.
That's a really important point, because I can see when Aiden knows. For the bottle caps are cool. He won a major competition in Colorado, and he had to get up in over 400 people and make a speech at this gala.
And I also had to sell 2 hours.
And sell 2 hours before. So he's like, I need to reserve my energy to be able to do that. And even
that's why that day I used 100% of my energy towards that,
just to accomplish
so the thing
that.
Is, but like the already speaking in front of all those people was like half my energy. So what I did is I used all my energy towards that, and that means no energy was going towards PANS. And that's why like after we left, they had a big problem at home.
It's hard to
because I had no energy towards PANS to control it. So it's just like it's kind of like if you're protecting your home, and then each day you put another gate there, and then one day you don't put any gate and just have fun at home, they're gonna destroy your house.
I get it, buddy. And that's really good for parents and other kids to understand that, and it's the same thing like if you had the flu, which is something else. You couldn't go out and run a marathon and take care of all your work and your schoolwork. You need to rest. And when you have PANS and PANDAS and the inflammation and the autoimmune disease of it, you also need to reserve some of that energy, because so much of that energy is being expended in this disease. So it's a really good point.
And then like for example, like I would like spend like, as I said, like I use like half my energy towards PANS each day, and then like half it towards like something hard. But let's say I do something that's fun, it might give me a little more energy, Like let's say, I put half towards school, half towards PANS, and then like because I did school, I get to play video games. I might get a few percentage back, and then I can still control myself for like the rest of the day,
Yeah, I get it. And one other point that your mom brought up a little bit ago, I wanted to emphasize a little bit, because I am a functional medicine physician and I come from a very classically conventional medicine background. But in conventional medicine, we're usually giving antibiotics and steroids. And I think the functional medicine piece of it is so important, because if you're also low in vitamin D or zinc, or you're eating a lot of inflammatory foods, or you're gut is upset because you're constipated or you don't have a good ecosystem in your body, all of those things will drain your energy or also not make you heal as well. So I think that's a really good, important piece that you guys had mentioned also.
Yeah, and just dovetailing on that with the diet, Aiden loves to eat and loves to cook, and we do our best. We say, okay, we haven't cut gluten out completely or dairy out
Yeah.
completely, but what we say is, okay, if like when we were away, he said, I'm going to have gluten free and dairy free for like breakfast and lunch, and then I'll have some cheat at dinner. And we figure out how can we at least cut back somewhat so it doesn't overwhelm,
Like
right?
for breakfast, I'd have cereal, and
It's
then
gluten free.
for like lunch, I'd have a salad or something, and then like for dinner, I'd have like a pizza or a pasta, something that has like cheese and like gluten.
And then in the
Yeah.
home, we try to keep it pretty gluten-free and limit the dairy, and that's helped a lot. It has helped a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. And for those that are listening that don't know, I mean, gluten and dairy are very inflammatory foods, and they
Yeah.
also block pathways of detoxification. And so removing them can be very helpful, but it can also be very hard. Like you want your cheese and you want your pasta. And do you know, Aiden, I don't know if I told you this before, but I have celiac, so I can't have any gluten. So I've found lots of ways to find really good gluten-free pasta and pizza and all that kind of stuff. But it's hard.
Making pasta and pizza is good, but like for example, like for example, at home I make gluten-free pizza. It tastes the same, but like
Right.
it tastes good. But then there's some things like for example, you don't want like gluten-free and dairy-free is different. Like
Yeah.
having no gluten is easier than having no dairy. Because you can always find like gluten-free bread or things like that. Like we already have that.
You don't like the fake dairy so
But
much.
no, because I guess like you can't like fake cheese doesn't exactly taste amazing.
I agree with you there, buddy. But there are good alternatives to milk, like
Yeah,
almond
we do
milk
have
and
all the
coconut
vegan.
milk.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
so we
cheese
do
is the
have.
hardest.
Yeah, we do have, like, the unsweetened pea milk, Ripple pea milk, and we do
Yeah.
have, like, unsweetened almond milk and all of that for sure. You did say something just kinda jumping back regarding when he gets sick, not strep.
Yeah.
We've noticed when Aiden has, like, the flu or a high fever, he doesn't have the symptoms of
Right.
PANS. He actually is, like, very docile.
Right. And there's good research that actually the fever is helping to treat the inflammation, and that level of inflammation that always is there with the pandas
Yeah.
until you're fully recovered
Yeah.
And like for
is
example,
dampened by the fever.
like
Go ahead, Aiden.
like in the beginning of this year, maybe like the end of last year, we also did homeschooling. So like the end of last year, I had like 105 fever, and like I did like 8 times the work. I was like,
Yeah, he did so much homework in his
I did like normally I don't want to do any, and then like I came in saying like, oh, I'll do something when it's bedtime. I want I want to read more. I want to do all these things more, and like normally when you have fever, you're tired and all that. I mean, yes, most of the time I am, but like during like the day, I'm not tired, but like
Your brain didn't feel as overwhelmed for
Right.
sure. It was really
Right.
interesting to see that.
and that was like once.
Can be tough. It's a blessing and also a challenge. Aiden's a very logical, thoughtful person. I remember when we went to therapy, our therapist was like, have him tested. I think he's quite bright. And it turned out to be the case. And when we told the pediatrician, he said, that's wonderful, but it can also be challenging because there's
Yeah.
so much. It's like he can get very meta about things.
Yeah.
And that in and of
Yeah.
itself.
Like if you could get a decent like score on something, but that was also like on the test, for example, to see if I was like the IQ thing I did. Like I had like an okay score, but also that was because I didn't try. Like if you try, it also depends. Like those things, it also depends like what happened that morning, what's going to happen next. Like if something bad happened in the morning, you might not be focused a lot or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, how you score
Yeah.
really depends on how you are that day. That's for sure.
And you brought your cat to
Yeah.
sit with you. What is his or her name?
Vinny, he's a boy.
Oh, hi, Vinny. Now, Aiden,
Vinny,
let me ask you, well, a couple of questions. One, what do you think really helped you? You're not fully better yet, but do you think it's the IVIG? Do you think there are other things you've done, like the diet, that have really helped you feel better?
I think we probably said was what made me feel better.
Is there one thing you think might have helped the most?
that we didn't talk about.
Or no, out of
Okay,
all those things you think is
Well,
most
like
helpful?
I started thinking, I know the things that helped me, and the things that helped me are the things you said. So it's not like
Yeah.
some I'll say no. Like when I don't know when something helps me, when someone tells me something helps me, I believe you.
So, Aiden, let me ask you a different question then. What do you wish adults knew about kids like you whose mood or behavior or whatever can suddenly change?
Or that, like, you should always kind of be calm. You shouldn't like overreact like the second something happened. Like if you were sure you didn't have that, fine. But like if someone has like parents all that, like, if something bad happened, you like yelling at someone or telling them like I'm gonna take something away during an outburst or anything. That's not gonna do anything. You have to figure something out. You need like to find a way to get someone to go to the emergency room or wherever you have to go.
Maybe
Like
some
Yeah.
compassion.
yeah. Instead of
Yeah.
just yelling at them saying like, "Oh, you didn't do you but what stop if you keep behaving like this, I'll punch you for this and all that." That's not how it works. Like
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the typical response is like, "Oh, if you didn't do this, you have to stay in for recess," or, "Oh," like shaming statements in front of a group of students. And I don't know
that
that that helps for anybody, but it's
Right.
it
that's
Right.
certainly
fine. But
isn't
like
helpful for
if you do
someone in a
something like that, like for example, if that might encourage me to have a flare, then if someone says like no recess or they say something in front of me, might get angry. Like someone might just get angry, but if you have PANS, you could also and you don't have the correct treatment, you could get the like when if you don't have if you don't have treatment or you don't have the correct treatment, like and someone says something, even if it's not super mean, like the tiny thing, kind of like kind of like a glass. If an opera singer sings a little too loud, it breaks. Like you can't be like
Yeah.
too. You can't like if you go too hard, then you're gonna make something that might be not everything is super harsh, but like for someone with PANS, like you could say something that might not be super harsh, but it could still make them be very angry and have a way harder response than just like saying, "Oh, that's not fair."
Yeah.
I think it's
I hear
difficult
you.
'cause you have a class, and you need to keep the class in order, and it can be very
For
difficult
the teacher
for the
and for the kid.
teacher and for the kid. I see it from both perspectives
Yeah.
without question. Um, but
But I think that calmness and compassion for everyone, that goes for all of the adults, whether you're dealing with PANS or PANDAS.
and it's a
That's a really
struggle. It's
important
a
part.
struggle to be
Yeah.
calm all the time. I'm really,
Yeah.
really fortunate because my husband is an incredibly calm rock. He is, I have to be like, okay now.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
at some point, it's enough. Like if you keep if like
But daddy stays very calm, and
for a long
that's
time,
very
not
anchoring.
forever.
That's very anchoring. And I think that is absolutely the way to go. Because I even see when my nervous system starts to vibrate at a higher
Right.
frequency, everything starts to vibrate at a higher frequency. It's just gets
Like for example,
exponentially worse. And I think
for
for
example,
parents,
if
one
I
thing, for self-care for parents, I think for a while I was kind of resistant to it because I was like, oh, all the time, all the money, all the effort needs to go for Aiden's care. And my husband's like, you need to get help so you can be well.
Exactly.
I would start going, I go for acupuncture weekly and I get the
then
treatments
yes,
I
like
need
also
Yeah.
because I have to reset every day. Every day I have
Yeah.
to be like, okay,
then
I'm
like
resetting now.
Yep. And Aiden, one of the things your mom's saying is that old adage, put your oxygen mask on first. Moms and dads can't help their kids unless they're helping themselves.
It took
yes,
me a
exactly. Like,
long while to accept that, and it was hard to hear because even when friends would
Yeah.
say that, I'd be like, but you don't know what's going on here. Like,
Right.
you're not understanding. And I think you come to a certain point where you realize the engine's totally empty.
like for example,
Yeah.
like for example, like let's say like I don't want to wash my pillowcase. You shouldn't make a gigantic argument about it, because then I'm gonna get more. Like let's say you say no, we have to wash the pillowcase, and I might get super angry, and at some point it can become like screaming at top of our lungs.
So I think that's a really good point with PANS. Thinking about
like small things you
which
shouldn't really.
things you can let go.
Right. How important is it?
And you have to put
Like,
how
for example,
important is it?
for example, like taking your
Yeah.
pills, or like brushing your teeth, things that like you need to do, like changing your clothes is not a very important thing, you know. Like brushing your teeth to get bacteria in the mouth is different, you know. There's like some things that like you can let go for like once, you know. Like you don't need a, it's not worth a gigantic argument to put to change your pants, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and I think that's something, like, that I've had to accept as well, because you're used to things marching in a certain order, and then it feels like utter chaos, and things really do start to smooth out if, like, the little things just you have to kinda
Yep.
that's not
Yep.
eh, who is the author, about essentialism? I think that's really,
Yeah.
like, the heart of it. What is essential? What are we
Yes.
optimizing for here?
Right.
And not getting lost on details that we might have originally thought were really critical,
Yeah.
uh, I think has been really, really important. And in all of
Absolutely.
this, I would just say, I know we probably have to go, but one of the last things I would say is, as difficult as this has been to navigate, I think it has really taught us a lot about empathy, trying to see things from multiple perspectives. Things don't always seem as they are on the surface. If you see, like, I now see, if I see another mother struggling, you don't have that judgment, as maybe a younger version of yourself may have, or
Yeah.
rolled your eyes, or you know,
Yeah.
you see things a little bit differently
Yep.
Maybe let's say someone else,
Absolutely.
like let's say like
because you don't know
let's
what's going on. You
'cause,
don't
like,
know
Yeah.
what's going on there.
if there's a kid, like, if there's an older kid who's misbehaving, that could just be a bad kid, but normally, like, yeah, like someone who's, like, 11, 12, even, like, a teenage something, and not, like, misbehaving
Yeah,
like a
something's going
baby,
on.
you
Yeah.
know? It's not
Yeah.
always correct, you know? It's like when, like, someone is, like, a small person, I mean, the small person has just nature, but, like, but then, like, that's, like, visible, but, like, if you're misbehaving, it's hard to tell, you know? You don't wanna
Yeah.
say, "Oh, I see you have pans," I mean, because that could be an insult, you know? But then you could also you're not gonna say, "Oh, you're misbehaving," you know? You just let it be, you know? It's not your business in that case.
Yeah. Just want to have compassion for everybody. You don't know what they're going through.
Yeah,
Can't walk in their shoes. So, and Aiden, you've given me so many insights and talked about so many things, but I want to ask you, if you had a day where your pans didn't bother you at all, what would be your perfect day? What would you be doing? What would you be feeling? What would be your perfect day?
I don't know, I'd probably do, like, all my schoolwork, and then I'd probably, like, play games, yeah.
we do have a lot of family game nights, that's for sure.
That's really cool. Well, I'm really proud of you, Aiden, and I am so proud that you asked to do this and that you're sharing your story and sharing what it's felt like for you. And I hope that from this, more people can gain understanding, but also gain some compassion. And the next kid that they see, they can maybe have a little bit more understanding of what they may be going through. So, there are any last words you or your mom want to say to any of the kids or adults or teachers or anybody out there?
I have one thing I'd like to say. If your mom or dad gut feels something isn't right, and you're going to get it checked out, I cannot emphasize enough, before going on any prescription medication, get some blood tests, get a strep test. I'm not saying that's what it's attributed to, but it's such a great idea to have that, because it really would have saved us
Yeah,
so much difficulty and having to wean off of this, ramp
yeah,
up and wean off.
right.
It was just a circuitous route to get where we are. And, the person who suffered the most was Aiden. And if I had known, blood test, strep test, and if the right course is to go on medications that's prescribed by a psychiatrist, you can take a test to find out which medications are best for you genetically for a couple of $100. And it is a very good investment, because after we took that genetic test, we realized the 2 medications he was placed on were completely inappropriate. And if we could have saved that heartache and those struggles by doing those few things beforehand, it would have made a world of difference.
But
So,
also, no shoulda, coulda, woulda. You can't know what you didn't
No, but
know
hopefully
then.
other people can
But
know
now,
that
hopefully, if they're
other
listening
people
and
can know.
watching,
Yeah,
exactly,
can know
exactly.
to hopefully do that. But thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Aiden, anything else you want to say to anybody that you haven't said yet?
No, I think I'm good.
You think
Just
you're
hopefully
good?
spread awareness, right? And
Yeah.
people know what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you just had IVIG yesterday. So I just
I
want to
know that
say
much.
how proud I am that you did this today and had, because that's a lot in your tank too. Even as you're trying to get better, taking those medicines take a lot out of you. So I'm
Yeah. An
I'm so
8-hour
proud of
day.
you.
So that
Yeah.
was an 8-hour day yesterday, not to mention commuting there and back. So I'm really, really proud. Really,
Yeah.
really proud of who he is, where he's come, and how much he wants to help other people, whether that's spreading awareness about this or distributing bags of food and supplies to people in need.
Yeah, that's
So that's
amazing that that's what you do with what you get from the bottle caps too,
oh,
to help the homeless. So you're an amazing young man, Aiden.
thank you
Yeah.
so much, Dr. O'Hara, for your
No, thank
time.
you. And I hope to talk to you again sometime in the future, Aiden, and hear more about your journeys and all the wonderful things you're going to do with your life, because I know that this is going to continue to get better and better. And you've got a great mom and dad that are helping you through it. So I'm really proud of you and really grateful for you being here today.
And we'll send you the update after all 6 are done, all 6 IVIGs, and maybe you'll get to read the study once it's complete.
Yep, absolutely. Well,
Thank
thank
you
you.
so much.
And thank you, everybody, for listening. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of Demystifying PANS. Thanks, everybody. That's it for today's episode of Demystifying Pandas. I hope you're walking away with insights, tools, and hope to help you and your child on this journey. If you found today's conversation valuable, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Share this podcast with anyone who might need it. It could be the lifeline they're searching for. And if you have a moment, leaving a review helps us reach even more families who deserve answers. Also, for more information, training, and community, check out our website, drohara.com, and join our annual membership. And remember, every step forward, no matter how small, brings us closer to healing and understanding. Until next time, be present, be hopeful, and we look forward to seeing you next time on Demystifying PANS.